Hey everyone, welcome to the first episode of the Sergeant Sentinel Gaming Podcast on YouTube. I'm SSG, aka Sergeant Sentinel, and thank you so much for dropping in. I greatly appreciate it. Joining me today are Uso Vinny and Fuzzy Belvedere. Welcome to this podcast. For everyone who's watching, we'll start with Uso. Tell us what you've been playing this week as far as gaming goes.
What's up? I've been playing just a lot of First Ascendant. I've just been grinding.
Nice. Fuzzy?
Yeah, I've been bouncing all around as far as games. Like earlier today, I was playing a little bit of Forza Horizon 5. Made sure I got the cars for this week. The changeover happens Thursday, so I'll make sure I get the one car I'm missing from this whole month's series.
Right.
As soon as I can, and then hopped on GT7, finished out the weekly because I kind of missed it when it switched over last week. So I wanted to get it before it does the switch over and the update tonight. Finally started, although it's pretty much through the tutorial on Kitsugami, Path of the Goddess. Love the look of the game. Didn't really pay as much attention as I probably should have to the tutorial, but I definitely want to dive into that more. But a couple other games that I recently finished off. Still Wakes the Deep, and I think I changed the language to at least get the achievement for the language, and then something else I did wound up getting another odd number points of achievement. Like I got 29 points after years of having it where it ends in either a 0 or 5. Now I got a 9 at the end of my achievement points, so I got to figure out either a 1 or something along those lines to kind of balance it out. But
Yeah.
just been playing a little bit of everything, touching stuff on Game Pass because what is it, like 2 weeks ago they definitely bombarded us with Flintlock and Dungeons of
Hey Fuzzy, I think your mic cut out.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm for the most part with the Game Pass games, it's been, so fulfilling as far as all those games that they dropped the past couple of weeks. And we got some more coming with, I guess, Crash Bandicoot trilogy coming soon.
Right.
And haven't even gotten the chance to touch Modern Warfare 3. I probably gotta make some room on the on the expansion card or something to be able to do that. But First Ascendant,
I think Modern Warfare 3 is like 250 gigabytes. It's crazy.
Yeah, they need to figure out how to take up less space. But First Ascendant, I need to get back to, and then Diablo's having an update, which I would love to get back to.
Right.
And at some point, Division will be touched again. But First Ascendant right now is the looter shooter of choice. I'm pretty sure we'll get into the whole thing with Bungie later, but First Ascendant right out of the box, they did it right. They paid attention to their competition and did some things that are so much more, I guess, player friendly in comparison to a lot of other looter shooters. So loving that, but I've put it down for about a week, but that's only because I was on the road. So yeah.
Right. I did download First Ascendant. I don't think I've played it yet, but I definitely need to. Uso, I didn't mean to cut you off, but your mic kept in and out, and I didn't know if you were having tech issues or whatever.
Oh no, you're fine.
But you said you were playing First Ascendant as well. Anything else that you were playing this week?
No, just First Ascendant. It's been grinding that.
It seems to be pretty popular. I definitely have to check it out. I did play Modern Warfare 3 earlier this week. Well, I guess it's last week because it's Tuesday now. But it just didn't resonate with me as much as other Call of Duty games. So I installed it. But I have been playing a lot of Far Cry 6. Just different games that I can live stream. So I was really looking forward to Stalker 2 coming out. But unfortunately, it got delayed to November. So I'm a little upset about that. But, it is what it is. So speaking of games, no, it's cool. It's cool. I apologize. I was just thinking that it's like a lot of games are getting delayed. Stalker and then Avowed, and I guess with Stalker they needed more time to polish it. And then of course we have games coming up in August, but some of them people are looking forward to, some of them they're not. We'll cover that later in the show though. But as far as Avowed goes, but when it was just rumors, did you guys think that it was going to be legitimate, or did you think it was just people on YouTube, or I mean on Twitter, I'm sorry, just making stuff up like how they do that sometimes?
I guess I could start. Like I don't claim to be an insider by any means necessary or anything along those lines, but
Right.
I do have some people that I'm in DMs with that are, and others that have either been on a podcast that I'm on, or I've been on their podcast.
Right.
And there were two games that were mentioned, and when Stalker 2 made the announcement, like it was like, I wouldn't even say a week, it was less than a week. It felt like 2 days
Right.
from when I got the info. And it sounds like that's been something that's been rumored in the background for some time. I was told about 2 games, one of them being Stalker 2, obviously now, the other one being Avowed. I was like, oh, that's a shame. But, I kind of expected Stalker 2 to some extent. I mean, given what those guys are going through and the loss to some of the people in the studio and just all the stuff involved, I can totally understand. And that's not to take away, what, Obsidian's doing over for Avowed. It's just a matter of, I kind of expected to some extent Stalker 2, but when I heard Avowed, I was like, oh man, that was up there on the most anticipated for first party for Xbox this year. And I'm like, I know it's going to get some backlash, but the sources were like, they've been rock solid in the past. So I was like, okay, I'll just wait for the fallout on Twitter, and just kind of kept my mouth shut. And, Stalker announcement came up. And I was like, okay, that's the first shoe. And then I saw other people that, also are in the know making, like questions or polls about, hey, which game should be delayed? And it's like, oh God, not this again.
Yeah, it's good though that the delay just happened, to give it kind of room to shine. Like how Titanfall 2 didn't have room to shine.
Yeah.
So, it's good that they're giving it really the room where people can pay attention to it.
I think with the Avowed is why is it that they're working on multiple?
Hey Uso, your mic keeps cutting out, so it might be a distance thing with your mic.
Oh, all right. So he'll come back in, but
yeah, he's going to troubleshoot. Well, you know what? While we're waiting for him to come back, I'm going to go ahead and bring up the story. This is just, of course, one article that's talking about the Avowed delay. Of course, it got delayed to 2025, and the date, of course, is February 18th, 2025. And it's just because, like we said, there's so many games that are launching during the fall time frame, so it makes it difficult, And it would have been crowded, and it would have been hard for Avowed to really shine because it's a new IP, and there's a lot of established IP or recognized IP that are launching during the same time frame. So it would have been difficult for it to get the attention that it deserves.
Yeah. I think overall, just giving it that space, like you said, is a good thing in general. Although I know some people are going to be upset because that was more than likely their most anticipated for this year.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure they'll enjoy, Indiana Jones. Fingers crossed, nothing on that one, but I haven't on that one being delayed. But they did kind of like it's still on track for 2024. But they're going to announce the date at a later time. And I think that's just a matter of like Matt Booty and team kind of figuring out where things can kind of squeeze in or fall in kind of thing. So I have a gut feeling that will still make the cut for this year. Fingers crossed, just for the, the video game awards. Hopefully it makes the November cut. Like, I guess usually the cutoff is somewhere around like the first week in November. So if it comes out before the first week in November, hey, it'll be in the running.
Right.
or could be in the running, provided that they give it the attention that it will probably deserve. But
Right.
yeah,
And
it's
I get that some people wanted it to come out this year, and like Cult Classic Cage said that the hype is dying, but
yeah,
it's just it was kind of a catch-22. Either launch it this year and it's fresh in everyone's minds, but it's launching against like Black Ops 6, the Indiana Jones game, and God knows what else, or you send it to February where there's usually not a lot of launches and you give it room to breathe, but again it cools off a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I think if they do like their normal dev direct, that's like they've done it 2 years in a row where it's like late January, early February time to have a dev direct.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that'll help build the hype up again. It'll
Right.
probably get its full time to shine, almost like what they did for Starfield at the end of a dev direct. And I
Yeah.
think people will have forgotten about the delay and just be focused on the storytelling and choices that they'll have and stuff like that. And then whatever else is going to be the early part of 25.
Right.
25 is going to be a scary year for anybody outside of Rockstar, because
Yeah.
if they don't delay, that means everybody's going to probably move out of their way, kind of thing. But yeah, Avowed being early February, that eliminates that potential gapping what we saw in 24, where I
Right.
think it was like Hellblade 2, came out, what was that, in May or something like that. So and I
Yeah.
know a few people were like, oh, where's first party? Even though there were tons of things dropping in the Game Pass.
Right.
Some people kind of forgot that Game Pass has other things other than first party to some extent. But I
Yes.
think it was a smart move on their part. And we'll see the extra polish. Like every time we've seen it, it looks a little bit better, whether it's the hand-to-hand combat, the magic hands, like she could say, the spells that you can cast,
Right.
the different environments and stuff. Every time it just looks that much better. So give them more time to polish. I have all the confidence in the world in Obsidian, delivering an awesome game. So it's good.
Definitely. Uso, what are your thoughts on the delay? Is it something that you're like, well, I get it, or does it really bother you that they delayed it?
Yeah, can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, usually when delays happen, it's because more. But in this case, it's just like, are they delaying it because of releases here, or are they delaying it? If it's a need more work stance, then I don't really understand. We're working on so many games at the same time right now.
You keep cutting out, Uso. It's like when you start talking, the volume is normal and then it tapers off like really fast.
Turn it.
Yeah, everyone's having technical issues today, I guess. It's all good. All right, so
I always look at it as the competition out there is intervening whenever we talk positive about Xbox. It seems like things start to go wrong.
Yeah, especially I was like, you know what, I don't really know OBS, so StreamYard is the best bet. So if I don't want to have a lot of tech issues, I need to go with StreamYard. So aside from a few minor issues, it's been pretty simple. So I'm grateful. The Avowed thing, it's like it kind of felt like with Stalker 2 getting delayed until November, because they want to give Stalker 2 really time to breathe, and of course they needed extra time for Stalker 2 for polishing and everything. It kind of feels like if Stalker 2 wouldn't have been bumped from September, maybe Avowed wouldn't have been bumped to February. That's kind of what it feels like to me.
Yeah, I think that's a strong possibility, just for the fact that you don't want something that's another first-person game. Even though you can do third-person on Avowed, that was one of those newer things that they kind of slipped in there as well. But they're totally different type of games, but you definitely, because of the anticipation for both, give them room, give them plenty of time to do your marketing, plaster it on the Game Pass like landing page and everything like that, so that way if somebody was completely oblivious to those games coming, they'll now know. But you can give them a lot more freedom, so that way they can, fall into Stalker 2, possibly spend 40 plus hours or more into that, and then not have to worry about, oh man, I got to do another in something like Avowed or something along those lines. So gives both games plenty of room. But I'm small amount of disappointed, but on the grander scale, I'm happy that they're making these moves so that way games don't get lost. Like you mentioned earlier, Titanfall 2 versus Battlefield that one year. It's like we still don't have a Titanfall because it seemed like it did so poorly because it was overshadowed by Battlefield. So yeah, we don't need something like that on a first party train as far as when it comes to Xbox, just for the fact that all of these games are well crafted and we're looking forward to them. And if one of them overshadows the other one, it's like, even though Stalker 2 being third party technically, but it's people are going to want to play both of those games and give them enough time so they don't have a backlog.
And it's like they're going up against Black Ops 6, which of course everybody knows Call of Duty is a juggernaut anyway. Yeah. So it's like the more games launching in that time frame, the more crowded it's going to be. And Stalker 2, I think, is different enough to where it's not directly competing with Call of Duty, but with Avowed launching, and it's a brand new IP, and it doesn't have. I get it. It's a fantasy RPG, but again, it's Xbox and it's in their wheelhouse, so they can control when that launches, and they want to make sure that it becomes a franchise, not just a one-off. They don't want it to suffer, kind of like how Redfall suffered, and Redfall suffered for a different reason. But I feel like they want games that they release from this point forward really having the best chance of success. I want to give a shout out to everyone in the chat. Baldman Gamer, it's like after midnight where he is in the UK. Thank you so much for showing up. Mazier, thank you. He's giving a shout out to Fuzzy. Poison Maniac, Cult Classic Cage, thank you so much for dropping in. I do greatly appreciate it. Uso was here for a while. He'll be back. He's just having tech issues, just so you guys know. His mic was giving him issues, so hopefully he can get that sorted out. It's cool. I get it. I had tech issues also. Yeah. So give me just a second. We're actually going to move on to the next one. The Bungie debacle. They laid off 220 employees. And you know what? It's like it wasn't just one bit of news with Bungie. It was all this stuff that was coming out about Bungie. And when they first came to PlayStation and they were part of PlayStation, they had some autonomy, right? Where PlayStation wasn't really messing with them. But I just don't think they're going to have that going forward. They had to lay off so many employees, and rumor is that they're not working on Destiny 3. I'm not sure if they were or if they were thinking about it, but that's no longer even in the cards. And another project that they had actually got canceled as well. And it's just one thing after another with Bungie, and you feel really bad for them, because they came in and everyone was like, oh, PlayStation is getting Bungie, and Destiny 2, with Destiny 2, they really stuck by it, and they really supported the fans for so long. And now it kind of feels like Bungie it's just dead in the water, so to speak. And you kind of wonder where they're going to go from here, especially with PlayStation owning them, because PlayStation invested $2 billion in them, and I don't think they're going to have that autonomy, because now they've proven they can't manage themselves. And of course it's Pete Parsons' fault, because like they say, whenever it comes to management, everything is your fault. So if Pete Parsons, and one of the worst things is it came out, he's spending all this money on all this stuff. And it's like, maybe before you go out and party, like you just won the lottery, even if you're the boss, maybe you focus on making sure your house, your company, your business is running like it needs to, And it just feels like Bungie missed so many critical steps. And of course, now they're in shambles. I'm sure you've seen everything that's been going on with Bungie. What are your thoughts about the Bungie issue that we're seeing right now?
Well, first, and this is going to probably be a little slanderous, but I'll start off with thank you, Phil, for dodging a bullet. um,
Right.
there was a couple of years ago when they were looking to expand before the acquisition, before even ABK was even mentioned. I knew that they were shopping around to some extent to at least help them with expansion. And when they didn't name the person or persons behind it, I thought, well, it's probably not going to be Xbox just for the fact that their price is too high, and people took it as, oh, what do you know? Xbox has Microsoft behind it with billions or trillions of dollars. I'm like, it's not that they can't afford it. It's like, why would they afford it? He's going to ask for more money than what their books are going to show they're worth.
Yeah.
And luckily, Phil did that homework, or Xbox team did that homework and was like, nah, we're good with not purchasing you at this point in time. I mean, it would have made for a awesome, I guess lineage or lore story with, Bungie coming back into the fold, and
Right.
especially shortly after the ABK thing was announced, it would have been like, oh, that's like a perfect storm. Well, it would have been a storm, all right. I don't know about perfect, but yeah, Xbox definitely dodged a bullet on that one. And I know Jim Ryan's like, oh yeah, this is going to be more valuable than what they thought the ABK deal would be. And
Right.
man, that's spoiled milk and curds and everything else that's rotten at this point. But yeah, all right. So they overestimated their sales numbers as far as when they were, counting on like upcoming DLC. And I think there was a report at one point that they were 54% over their actual sales number. So
Right.
when you are off by that much, either you're fudging the numbers or you're oblivious to what your player base is really wanting.
Right.
And maybe it's a bit of both. And at that point, I kind of figured, oh, this isn't going to go well long term. They already laid off 100 people earlier on, like shortly after the acquisition. So it's like, and some of those people, and this is where it was slimy before we even heard about the car shopping spree.
Yeah.
It's like some of these people were about to be vested in those shares that, that overpayment that Sony made to retain the talent was to go back to some of those within the fold and some of the upper management as well. Well, some of those people which were like less than 2 weeks away from vestment, were like, hey, here's your pink slip. Bye. And then they send out an email. Well, we kept all of the, agile and important people to this thing. And it's like, wait, no, you just got rid of some people that would have taken away from that, I guess, that bonus that, the executives pocket at some point.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that came across as being slimy. And then hearing a lot of the back and forth where, because they missed some of their estimates and things like that, they were going to kind of change out the board. Well, long story short, it looks like that's going to take place now, especially after the most recent layoffs and job changes. I think supposedly 150 are going to SIE, other studios within Sony and stuff like that.
Right.
And then there was like at least another 100 or so that are probably just completely laid off altogether. Some of which I can't remember if it was a female that he was trying to impress or just some of his coworkers. But it's like, hey, I got all these cars, come check them out. And I guess that person wasn't all that impressed with the cars. They were like, oh yeah, they're nice, and come to find out they're laid off a couple of days later. So it's like, this guy is like, if anything, when you look at Bobby Kotick, and he even made mention before that they're great at their craft, but they suck at as far as structure and time management and all those other key things that management needs to do. And people looked at Bobby like he was the villain. No, Pete Parsons was the bigger villain. Whether he learned some of it from Kotick or he just was the villain all along, and Kotick kind of absorb some of that energy. It just feels like that guy was just all about the checks from Sony, spend all the money on himself and cars and the employees and whatnot, they be damned. It's like he could have redistributed stuff to make sure that they could staff up and get things done in time, or make sure you retain the talent like Sony wanted.
Yes.
But even looking back at some of because we heard that they were the ones that were kind of like the QC people for these games as a service. Originally, they were supposed to be like 10 or 12 games as a service. Now they're down to like 4 or 5. So a good bit of them got canceled. And Bungie, I don't know. Maybe this is a slimy take as well. Maybe they purposely, thumbs down on factions and the Spider-Man thing because that would have outshined them. It seems like they gave the thumbs up on Concord, which I don't want to slander Concord, but some of it has like that Bungie, PvP, look to it to some extent.
Right.
But outside of that, it's like, oh yeah, they're not a threat to us. We'll still be top dog in this realm. But if factions came out, especially when the day after or the day before it was found out it was a scam, everybody was wish listing that game. All factions had to do was do that. Like that would have probably been a bigger hit. I mean, Sony wouldn't have done the scam thing, obviously, but they would have made a game that people were actually looking for, as far as like this post-apocalyptical, zombies. Although they're not really zombies, they're infected or whatever. That people would have eaten that up. And then the Spider-Verse game, who wouldn't have bought like tons of Spider-Man skins? Co-op. Play with 4 or 5 friends, going through New York City. Just stopping crime and all that. Those two would have been guaranteed moneymakers for PlayStation, and somehow Bungie influenced the higher ups to say no. I don't think they had a chance with Arrowhead and Helldivers, because I think that was already across the finish line or close enough to the finish line that they couldn't turn it down. So I don't think, like, they probably tried, and I think the guy at Arrowhead, because he seems like he has the balls to come to the meeting and be like, screw those guys. They had a hit on their hands. They still have a hit. It's just that whole PSN login is what's kind of killing it. But I don't know. Bungie,
I agree with you. I mean, you make a lot of good points. It's such a missed opportunity because Bungie came in and they had the credibility and the talent to make it work. And I don't know. It's like somewhere along the way, they just, I don't know. It's so frustrating, Yeah. Uso, what are your thoughts on the whole Bungie debacle issue?
Hey, can you guys hear me all right now? Sorry.
Yes.
I have to restart real quick because all my programs updated and it kind of screwed up the settings I had.
I completely get it.
But with the whole Bungie thing, man, I'm so grateful Microsoft didn't buy Bungie because they're just scummy, man. Like, I'm so happy that Sony was the ones that finally caught them in their own game. And I was just telling one of my friends about this, that Sony, they thought they could get away with, or not Sony, sorry, Bungie. They thought they could get away with signing a $3 billion contract, and they thought everything was going to go exactly how they wanted to. They get the money, and then they probably planned on dipping after that, after however many years. But obviously that wasn't the case, and Bungie's finally getting exposed for like the toxic workplace it really is. I obviously feel terrible for the devs that are affected by the layoffs and everything, but as far as like the top management, I already know that they're never gonna pull stunts like this again, because from the rumors it sounds like Herman Hulst is kind of gonna like dissolve the studio into another studio, or and just kind of just make it fully Sony owned. So I'm glad. It's like, I'm glad it happened, but at the same time it sucks. But at the same time, it's never gonna happen to other devs affected by Bungie again. So
it feels like ever since Herman Hulst came into PlayStation as the head guy, once Jim Ryan left, that he's been doing nothing but cleaning up messes. And Bungie's probably like the biggest mess he's having to clean up. And it's crazy because it had a $2 billion price tag attached. So that's a hell of a mess that he's having to mitigate. and their autonomy, it has to be the first thing that goes, so that he has
clearly.
control over it.
Especially over finances. Like, get rid of whoever is in charge of their finances and plug someone from Sony in, so that they can oversee what's going to where's going to what, because they're just terrible. Like, Bungie's terrible with their finances. As we've seen, they've already let go about like 500 people, or no more than that, probably like over 1,000, right? Because they had laid off 900 earlier this year.
Yeah, I remember it being pretty high.
Yeah, so that's my take on the whole thing.
Damn, that's so crazy. I still can't believe, because everyone was kind of like, oh, I hope that Bungie, whenever they come in, that they're able to, because they're experts of games as a service. That's essentially what Destiny 1 and 2 were, that they could come in and they could really help PlayStation get on top of one of their biggest issues for years, because everyone said the biggest issue with PlayStation is they can't compete with Microsoft, with Xbox, as far as these multiplayer games as a service. They just can't do it. So here comes Bungie, $2 billion price tag, and people are like, well, they're worth the money, and now they have nothing but issues, and it's crazy. It just blows my mind,
That was my thing. Like, when I heard the rumor, and obviously it wasn't confirmed, but when I heard the rumor that Bungie was in charge of consultation with the other studios' gas games, I was like, that was a huge mistake. I still hope it's not true, but seeing the results of like everything that's happened over the past year, I think I definitely think it was true. And I just don't understand the logic of letting this outside guy in determine what's better on the inside,
Yeah, no, I get it. And I think a lot of people were kind of hopeful, because Jim Ryan kind of had a reputation for wanting, during this last 3 or 4 years, most of his focus was games as a service. And we all saw that. And it's like, well, if you do those right, it's not that much of an issue. But then they're canceling so many of them. And everyone was kind of like, well, Bungie having autonomy from that is a good thing. But now we see that's not true, that they needed oversight, because the boss obviously wasn't being a boss. At least not how Bungie needed it, It's crazy. All right, so let me see. Our third story that I wanted to cover, obviously everything announced at the THQ Nordic showcase. I actually had some game trailers that I wanted to show, but again, tech issues, it wouldn't let me do it, so it was kind of frustrating. Let me see.
Yeah, I think you have to like download the trailers and then process them to OBS. Yeah, it's a lot of work.
So let me see. This is what I'm going to do. All right. So everything announced at THQ Nordic Showcase 2024, Wreckfest, Gothic 2, and more. Now, they announced a number of games, and obviously, because I love racing games, the biggest one that caught my attention was Wreckfest 2, of course. Let me see. Wreckfest 2 brings more customization. The biggest surprise of the showcase was the reveal of Wreckfest 2. The arcade-style racing game is getting a sequel that promises more chaotic driving. It's being built in a new iteration of the ROMU engine and comes with several new features. The biggest draw is a new customization suite that lets players painstakingly design their liveries part by part. A gameplay video showed a player spraying rust marks on a car and decking it out with decals. THQ Nordic says the players will be able to share their creations too. Aside from that big feature, we know that Wreckfest 2 will feature multiple race modes, as well as a career mode. It will get modding support and feature regular content updates. It doesn't have a release window or specific platforms at the moment, but is set to launch on PC alongside unspecified consoles. And then, of course, other games that we saw. Gothic 1 Remake gets lots of improvements, and it's a 2001 RPG. Basically, it's getting remade, and I'm not familiar with this game, but again, I do think it looks interesting. It's something I'll probably check out. Let me see. Epic Mickey Rebrushed. They showed basically Epic Mickey from years ago is getting 60 frames per second at 4K. They also showed off Titan Quest 2. They showed off gameplay of Titan Quest 2 as well. Another video that I wanted to show. Tech issues, I apologize. The Eternal Life of Goldman is a show stealer. It's a new 2D platformer from Weepy Studios, the small team behind This Is the Police. It's a throwback to classic 16-bit platformers from the Super NES era with an emphasis on precise platforming. It's not Metroidvania with lots of backtracking or Souls-inspired indie like Hollow Knight. Instead, players control an old man who can use his upgradable cane to smack enemies and platform. And let me see. I gotta look. I'll bring up the Darksiders teaser after this.
Mhm.
But what was you guys' thoughts on the Wreckfest and the Wreckfest 2 and these other games that they showed before the trailer for Darksiders 2? We'll leave that discussion for after this.
I thought it was cool. I think Wreckfest is a really smart IP to bring back. Obviously, it won't be huge, right? But
Right.
I think it could gather a big enough audience to support THQ and possible future sequels. I think it looks good too. I think not many people do like the whole rally racing or off-road racing
Yeah.
vibe. So as far as the other games, like Gothic, the Gothic remake and Mickey Rebrushed or whatever.
Yeah, Epic Mickey Rebrushed.
I think it's cool to play it safe with the remakes and whatnot because it doesn't really cost. I don't think they're getting like complete overhauls, right? They're just getting like texture updates, resolution, etc.
Yeah, with Mickey, I think it's 4K at 60. I think it's
yeah, exactly. So, and I think now's a good time to bring back like Disney games because of how popular Disney is right now. So, and it's like low risk on their end. I thought it was a good show for THQ. I think they did well.
Yeah. Fuzzy, what were your thoughts about the THQ Nordic Showcase?
Biggest standout being Wreckfest 2. Love first Wreckfest. Like, I guess it's the closest thing we'll ever get on console to Beam NG Drive. I don't know if you've ever seen that. It's like a soft body crash simulator to some extent. Nice. Where it goes into extreme detail between like flattening tires, bent wheels, broken drivetrain components, fenders being able to be ripped off and everything.
Right. That's crazy.
Wreckfest 1 was pretty close considering, it was meant to be more of an arcade style racer.
Right.
But it had that look. And this one looks like they dialed up the goodness of the visuals and things like that. So with it being next gen, and more than likely, like, if this thing comes out like in the next year or two, yeah, it's definitely going to be PS5 and Series X and S.
Right.
But if it takes it maybe 2 to 3 years, then it might even be the next Xbox, and it might wind up being like a launch title type of thing, which them not making mention of a specific console kind of makes me think that might be part of it. But yeah, just seeing that they still have the physics and they've even, gone that much further with it. The customization, like, even though the previous one, it was like, I think you could choose like 2 or 3 type paint schemes or something per car. So if you can go all out this time around, almost like having like a paint booth similar to like a Forza setup. Yeah, I'm there for that. That game, Vinny's right. It won't be huge, but it'll definitely be big amongst racing fans and things like that. It'll be like one of those games that's perfect for like community game nights and things along those lines. Take out your console war frustrations on the people on the track kind of thing. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. The other games getting like a remaster or an update. It's always cool to see those because those classic games have a following, and if you can do Unreal Engine 5 for what was it, Gothic, I think that's the way to go, because we already know Unreal Engine 5 is that engine that everybody like drools over to some extent when it comes to any game coming out. So yeah, it's great that they're doing that, but we can get into Darksiders next. I think that's going to be their next big one as well.
Right. Yeah. Wreckfest 2 and Darksiders were both surprises. Really nice surprises because I like Wreckfest. I'm a racing fan like yourself. And to see Wreckfest 2, I was like, yes, absolutely, 100%. And, I'm a fan of the Darksiders series. I haven't played it in a while, but I'm definitely looking forward to jumping back in, and hearing that they're teasing Darksiders 4 is definitely a plus. Give me a second. Let me see. I'm going to pull up the next article. Here we go. So THQ Nordic teases Darksiders 4 with a hell-heavy trailer. Darksiders 4 is on the way, according to THQ Nordic's Fire and Brimstone teaser trailer, unveiled as part of its 2024 showcase. It's been 6 years since we got a main series Darksiders game. And while we absolutely love Darksiders 3, it wasn't universally well received. Thankfully, that wasn't enough to extinguish the franchise. And a spin-off, Darksiders Genesis, dropped 2020. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Let me see. Hold on a second. I'm going to see if I can pull up the Darksiders. Give me a second. Darksiders 4 trailer. And then I'm going to share that one. So let me see. Give me just a second. I'm fighting with it. Yes, watch on YouTube. And then I'm going to... Let me take this off, and I'll put the new one on. Stop screen. All right. Here we go. So give me just a second. Very nice. Very nice. Definitely got me excited. Oh my God. Can't believe it. So, I take it you guys are excited about Darksiders also?
Yeah, I was just about to ask if you guys are big Darksiders fans.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Yep.
I think it was a little before my time. I tried playing like Darksiders 2 and getting into it, but it was kind of difficult.
Didn't they have a Darksiders remastered though?
Yeah, they had the War Mastered or whatever. I have that too. I played like maybe about an hour or 2 hours into the first one.
Right.
And the second one I got pretty far. I think it was like halfway through, but then I don't know. I think I just got lost and stopped playing it. But I wasn't the third one like a top-down or isometric shooter.
No, I think that was the one they released in 2020, the offshoot that they were talking about.
Genesis.
Right, yeah. The third one was with what's her name?
Yeah, the female. I don't remember her name.
Yeah, I forgot which one she represents. But yeah. I mean, Darksiders 4 looks cool. Do you guys who are you guys expecting to play as in this one?
I'm not even
question.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea.
I think
there's only like 4 horsemen to choose from, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, for all we know, with Darksiders 4, they could do something like GTA 5 did, where they let you pick.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
That would be cool.
Yeah, I mean, they could have it. They could have it where you can play a single player, and the other horsemen are controlled by like AI, or you could have drop in, drop out co-op. They could do that, which would be crazy.
Yeah, that I think if you have co-op play, that would definitely take it to the next level, because that way, still play solo, but you'd get probably more people into it, at least to give it a try. If you can do like a co-op kind of thing.
I think though the issue with having drop in drop out co-op is that the levels have to be designed differently, because right now up to this point they've been developed, I guess, for single player in mind.
Yeah.
But with multiple players, you might have to have bigger levels. So I mean, if they were going to do that, I think they'd have to really be meticulous and kind of go to the drawing board with how they're going to design these levels to keep the feel of the Darksiders games up to this point, but also allow enough room for multiple players.
Yeah.
Yeah, Darksiders 2 was cool. That one was kind of open world, kind of reminded me of like Zelda, like Legend of Zelda.
Yeah, someone sold me on it. They said it's like a cross between Zelda and God of War. That's what they told me.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's pretty accurate, I think I own it on both PlayStation and Xbox, I think. Yeah, it's pretty cool though. It's definitely a franchise that I think has a lot more life left in it. So seeing that they're making a fourth one is definitely a good thing. Definitely a good thing.
I'm probably gonna go back and revisit all the games, since I own all of them but never played them.
Right. Now's the time before Darksiders 4 comes out.
Yeah. Get that refresher on the lore and stuff like that.
Yes. All right, let me see. Give me just a second. I'm pulling up our next story. We all know what it is. Game Informer magazine is shutting down after 33 years.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. I'm going to share my screen. Give me a second. Let me see. There we go. All right. So Game Informer magazine is shutting down after 33 years. Another giant name in the gaming press is shutting down its operations. Game Informer announced today, well, this is from last week, that it's been shut down by its parent company GameStop after 33 years in the business. The entire website and its archives have also been removed and now redirect to the magazine's final statement of thanks to its readers after 33 thrilling years. Say that 3 times real fast. After 33 thrilling years of bringing you the latest news, reviews, and insights from the ever-evolving world of gaming, it is with a heavy heart that we announce the closure of Game Informer. The publication statement reads, "Oh, that sucks." What are you guys' thoughts on that? I mean, were you real big Game Informer fans, or wasn't really a thing for you?
I was kind of a fan of some of the articles. They were one of the few magazines, and this is probably going to sound console warish, but they were one of the few magazines out there that weren't, 100% in the PlayStation pocket kind of thing to some extent.
Right.
So Xbox games did seem to get like a fair shake as far as exposure and whatnot. Love the covers. Basically, a lot of my gaming room was having the Game Informer magazine, possibly with like the game guide and the box for the game, whether it's the steel box or steelbook or the normal case, and I would have those like sectioned off on like the little bookcase and stuff. But it's a shame that they closed that down. And I always wondered, and when they made mention, like I would say like 5 or 6 years ago, that they were having financial trouble or something.
Yeah.
I was hoping that they would just sell the covers. Like those covers, a lot of times, if they just made them into like poster artwork for like a game room,
yeah,
people would probably buy those things up, as long as it's not like $300 or $500 or something along those lines. But if they charge a reasonable like artwork price for them,
yeah,
I think a lot of people would have picked those up as well. Because printed
partner
media
with
is
Discard. Or
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, if they partnered with those guys, that would have been huge. Like printed media is a hard thing these days. Everybody is used to reading stuff on their phone or tablet or their PC. so printed media these days is just, it's struggling, and not just in gaming, but for automotive and even like firearm stuff. Like some of those are still, having a hard time with subscriptions and stuff. So I think they should have at least looked at that as an alternative, or I don't know. I try to use the digital site for like the upcoming games, because like on Mav's podcast, we always try to like have this weekend games coming, and it's like they were probably the best place to have a list of the games that are for that week or for that month. Most other places are like, this is our top 7 picks for the month of August, or these are our top 10 picks, and it's like
they had the whole list. Game Informer had.
Yeah, and it's like everybody else is like, oh nope, we only got a handful of them, versus Game Informer having every month it's like 30 or 40 titles that I forgot about this one. Oh, it's finally coming over to Xbox, or it's coming over to Switch or whatever. So yeah, it's a shame. I really wish that somebody would pick up the name and kind of run with it as a digital online type of thing. But if GameStop couldn't keep it afloat, I can't imagine that being easy to do. And
and it's like from a bygone era of gaming, I guess. But it's like, even when I would go to GameStop, even last year before, and they said, hey, do you want you want the print form of Game Informer in the mail? And I was like, hell yeah, I do. Hell yeah. Because I loved reading it, and like you said, the artwork was phenomenal. And every single time I got it in the mail, that was like a highlight of my day.
It just popped.
Yeah, exactly. And you're like, hell yeah, and you're reading it cover to cover, and now that's gone. And it's not the same reading it online. It's just not,
It's not as good. I grew up on Game Informer. What was cool about Game Informer is just like, if you wanted gaming news and like visuals on the games that are upcoming and whatnot, you got it through Game Informer. This is before like YouTube and really before the internet really just popped off with all these different websites and journal. Like, gaming wasn't really super big in the early 2000s, so I think that's when Game Informer really thrived back then.
Yeah. It's just it's like there's not another organization that I could think of though that would be able to pick it up.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I guess if Xbox goes third party, they could, but that's blasphemy. So I'm not talking about that.
It's also surprising that their website, all their articles and whatnot, didn't take off, despite them being like the original game journalist website.
Yeah, it's too bad, and the fact that they're going to be gone forever. And they're like, hey, farewell, we're closing our doors after 33 years. It's just,
it sucks.
From a gamer's perspective, it's heartbreaking, because it's kind of like a part of your childhood, a part of your life, as far as a gamer goes, is just gone.
It's like when G4 shut down.
Yeah.
I guess the bigger drawback now is that, as far as gaming media is concerned, it's only owned between 1 or 2 companies. Like,
IGN and IGN owns like almost I think like 70 or 80% of the big gaming media outlets.
Yeah. So it's like it just makes it harder for, I guess, let's say even smaller devs to even get their word out in some of these magazines and things like that, unless they've been chosen by like was it Ziff Davis, I guess, is the conglomerate behind
the gaming
IGN
journalist
and all.
God.
Right.
But and then like the only other one I think is like the ones that own Eurogamer, or maybe that's the same. I know there's like 2 main ones, but like you said, the one that owns IGN owns like 70 or 80% of the stuff that's out there. So
yeah, dude. And it's just like, man, when you see stuff like how IGN would put out reviews for kind of smaller titles or indie titles, and they would just give it a 7 out of 10 despite not playing it, just because I'm just like, dude, that's horrible.
Yeah.
That's not a review. That's just that's slop. Like, you're just throwing slop out there.
Right.
Well, a lot of those review sites now even review games negatively based on what they thought or what they wanted the game to be. Like,
Yeah,
remember the
what
whole
the
thing
hell?
with Suicide Squad? It was like, oh, we wanted this to be like a Batman game. Well, it's not a Batman game. It's a looter shooter kind
No.
of game, so it's different. But then they gave it negative points because it wasn't a Batman game type of thing, and it's uh, like
Yeah.
you're purposely downing a game as opposed to trying it or giving it just desserts for what it is as opposed to what you wanted it to be, kind of thing.
And you know what's funny? Like, I just finished Suicide Squad like last week,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of the talking points that people tried to use with, like, the talk down on the game,
Mm-hmm.
they were just way overblown, exaggerated, or just plain out false. Like, with the whole them killing Batman and disrespecting him. They killed the one that was controlled by Brainiac, but they honored the memory of the OG Batman. But they forgot, everybody cut that part out because they rather hate on the game and talk crap about it. But
yeah,
I think I think with Game Informer, one of the big takeaways is that they were always pretty neutral and pretty fair. And we're seeing with a lot of these online sites right now for gaming that they're not necessarily fair, and a lot of them will make like uncalled for comments about someone that they don't like personally, as if it's Xbox, if it's a game studio or whatever, and professionalism goes out the window. But with Game Informer, you could always count on it, and that's kind of it's unfortunate that we don't have Game Informer anymore, and we're still stuck with these kinds of people, I guess.
Well, that just gives more opportunity to smaller sites out there. I mean, you got like Iron Lords have their website. Level 1 Gaming has their website.
Right.
Season Gaming has their website. I'm pretty sure I'm forgetting a couple of other ones, but like Xbox Era, I think, has their own website. Hopefully people just kind of pick up from where your gamer left off and find those smaller sites that are going to be more in tune with the actual gamers, as opposed to putting out opinion pieces about how they want Xbox to leave the market just because they're not number one or something. It's sad that gaming media has come to that, but hopefully at some point people will start focusing on the games, which right now Xbox has got a ton of them to boot. So hopefully there'll be some sort of changing of the guard in that sense.
Give me a second. There's one more I want to bring up. This is kind of strange, and this kind of caught me off guard. Star Wars Jedi Survivor is coming to PlayStation 4 and Xbox One in September. Pre-order bonuses also revealed ahead of next month's release. EA will release Star Wars Jedi Survivor for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One on September 17th, 2024 for $49.99 and feature a variety of optimizations aimed at maximizing the hardware capabilities of the consoles, according to the publisher. Now, the reason why this is so weird is because when Jedi Survivor launched for current generation consoles, wasn't it having tons of issues?
Yes.
And so they're going to launch it on the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, and there's the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X, but they have to dial it down to the lowest console, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're talking the OG Xbox One, the VCR Xbox One, and you're talking the base PS4, and it's like I can only imagine how bad this game is going to run.
But remember, it's a Series S fault that everything runs so bad.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And that's so crazy, though. It's one of those things that I heard this and I was like, what are they doing? It just makes no sense to me.
They're just fiending for money, man. They really, I think maybe it didn't hit sales goals and whatnot, but they're probably just trying to like scrape what they can get at this point.
You know what? But it's like look at how many properties that EA has that we love from the past that they're just sitting on. There you go.
Titanfall.
Yeah. And then Respawn was like, "Oh yeah, we're not working on Titanfall 3 at all," and everyone's
Oh
like,
my
"No, what are you
God.
doing?"
Like, why are you spending more money to work on an IP that you have to, you don't really make that much profit of than a beloved FPS franchise? Obviously, people love Titanfall universe because everybody
Yes.
plays Apex.
Yeah.
And everybody's been asking for Titanfall 3 for the longest time. I just don't understand.
Well,
And-
they don't have a Battlefield to release at the same time, so they gotta time it just right to
Right.
Man.
crush Titanfall again or something.
Oh.
stupid.
It's got to land right the day before Battlefield.
You know what? It's like if it would have just been Battlefield and it wouldn't have been Call of Duty also, I think Titanfall 2 might have survived.
Mhm.
But you had Battlefield 1
Mhm.
and you had Titanfall 2, but you had Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, which was
Mhm.
like, space age warfare, and then you have Titanfall 2, which kind of leans in the sci-fi shooter aspect.
Mhm.
And it's like EA knew that they were releasing, Call of Duty Infinite Warfare at this time. It's like they just sent it out to die, and that
Yeah.
sucks because Titanfall 2 since then has kind of become it's developed a cult following, I guess. And so they could make a Titanfall 3 on the same level or better than Titanfall 2, and they'd basically be printing money with it. But instead, they focus on porting a game that already had problems to last generation consoles, and it's just going to be a mess. I don't get it.
Yeah. Well, the one thing, and I've seen a couple of reports on this where, like, at least on the PlayStation side of things, I don't think this is necessarily the case on Xbox's side, but on the PlayStation side, it's like 48% or basically almost half of their active users are still
Right.
on PS4. So it kind of makes sense. I mean, if you look at, they sold 100 and some odd million consoles, there's still got to be somewhere around 40 or 50 million of those things still bumping around, and that people haven't upgraded to the PS5. And
Yes.
who knows if they would upgrade to a PS5 Pro, considering that thing's going to probably be 600 plus at that point. But
Right.
I guess EA is like, well, we got to pay we got to pay Disney this money for this title, and it didn't quite meet what we were expecting. So maybe if we throw it over here, these guys will bite, even though it'll run 15 frames or something like that. But it's just weird.
Well, we saw from the leaks that happened a couple months ago how much the Marvel license costs PlayStation. I can only imagine how much a Star Wars license costs Electronic Arts. And like how they said you have to sell so many copies just for us to keep the agreement with you.
Yeah.
I think that might be a driving force behind this.
Oh man. Well, that sucks. Like I was probably one of the loudest ones complaining about it on my Xbox Series X.
Right.
Like, that game, I think, broke me from buying stuff day one from EA ever again. Like 2042, all right, it had its issues. It was mainly for my son. I wasn't going to take it personal. And then I think I had issues with Need for Speed Unbound, although it may have been my Series X at the time that was having the problem, but I was having it where it was cutting off. Like as soon as I would go to park the car in the garage, I have 100,000 or more on me, and it's like power short or power outage on just the console. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me.
Jesus.
And then went and bought Survivor day one, and I'm like, this thing looks worse than Jedi Fallen Order, like on its launch. Like that, it wasn't that it was rough on its launch, but that game, I thought came out pretty decent as far as the first one. And then they had subsequent patches that made it even better. But this was like a step back before even Fallen Order's first patch kind of level, where if you put it on performance mode, it was like he was being beamed up or something. It was like particle effects or something where
I felt like I was in the 1980s.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it just didn't play right. And I'm like,
the performance was horrible.
Yeah, I played that thing to finish it. I was like, I'm just getting this out of my system. I'm gonna hurry up and finish it, and I'll be done with EA. I'm not buying anything more from them day one. Hence why I haven't bought NCAA 25 just yet. But I have a feeling I'm gonna cave on that one. But
Right.
Yeah, that just spoiled my outlook on anything EA is as far as day one is concerned.
Yeah.
The
But-
funniest thing about Jedi Survivor 2, now that we're looking at the specs for the PC, it's still broken on PC. From what everybody is saying,
Jesus.
they have not patched it at all since the first year of Jedi Survivor. So it's just like, what are they doing here? I just don't understand.
You know, I think like the problem is the executives and the bosses are like, we want this now, and they're like, but we need more time. We don't care. We don't just fix what you absolutely have to, and get it out the door. We don't even care. And it's like that's just going to create more problems in the long run. You know.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just hoping they get things right with the Iron Man game. Like I
Oh my
see,
God!
like
Yes.
everybody's talking about in the chat with Anthem, which that was another game I loved. It just didn't have enough content. I mean, I was fine with it as far as like the gaming loop until I got all of my like I forget what you call them, but like you're basically your suits all the way up to like the legendary or whatever level type of thing. But
Right.
yeah, they really should have given that one more time. And to hear the stories about them like, oh yeah, we didn't pay attention to Destiny or Division. Why would we do that? So you don't make the same mistakes that they made.
Right.
You know, get things right out the gate. But I don't know.
Oh,
EA
that's so
sometimes.
crazy. Wow. Jesus. Yeah, you know, I heard is it EA that's also working on a Black Panther game as well?
Yeah, they have a Black Panther game. Now there's 2 Black Panther games. I think there's one by Sundance, I think, which is going to be with Captain America, set in like 1940s time period type of deal. But the one from
sick, by
EA
the
is
way.
supposed to be a more modern one for Black Panther. So looking forward to it, but hopefully EA doesn't rush it, you know, at the finish line where it's like, yeah, we need to help out these investors so they get their dividends and just put it out. We'll fix it later. No.
Well, and the one Black Panther game where he's the main protagonist, it's a single player game, right?
Yeah.
And the Iron Man as well, right? That's also a single player game.
Believe so, yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna be buying both of those definitely. You know, it's like these games should have come out 10 years ago. I'm happy they're coming out now, but it's like they should have come out 10 years ago, and that's what they should have been focusing on instead of, you know, it just feels like they missed the boat, but they can swim to catch up. I don't mind, you know.
Yeah,
it's fine.
And these are 2 of my favorite like superheroes of all time, Black Panther and Iron Man. Literally, like I'm just hoping they come out great.
Right. Yeah, me too. You know, because I admit that I pre-ordered Marvel Avengers, and I played it on PlayStation 4, and it was broken at launch because I kept getting kicked out of the game at a certain point. So it was frustrating, you know. It had kind of good bones, if you want to call it that, but there was just too much wrong with it, that especially the live service thing, I think that should never have been a focus, you know.
I think if they kept it as a single player or maybe just a co-op where it wasn't about the live service and the skin upgrades and things like that. Like just you can have skins in it, but don't have it where it's got like certain percentage points for this as an upgrade. It's like But they Square at that time didn't know what they had in front of them. They could have just left that team alone to go ahead and make a good Marvel game, and it would probably still be selling copies otherwise.
Right.
But they were like, nope, we need season passes and a battle pass and, you know, microtransactions. And I don't care that you haven't done this before. You're going to do it. And you're going to put it in this game, and we're going to say it underperformed in 2 weeks.
Right. Yeah, that was the whole situation was just it was too much of people involved making the decisions that didn't understand how gaming works. You know, and they should have just left them alone and stayed hands off. So I hope that happens with Black Panther and Iron Man, because if it does, and you have people that know how to make games and actually enjoy these IPs, if you allow them to really work on these games, I know they're going to be great. You know.
Yeah, definitely.
Speaking of upcoming games, there are a number of games that are coming out actually in August. Let me see. Here we go. August 2024 video game release schedule. A lot of these I'm not familiar with. I know Star Wars Bounty Hunter released August 1st. I think that was a remaster of the original version, right? That wasn't a remake.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a lot of games coming out this month. Obviously, it looks like there's something for everyone, but the two biggest ones that really caught my eye were Black Myth Wukong and of course Star Wars Outlaws.
Yeah.
Are there any games that are coming out this month that you guys are looking forward to that you're like, you know what, I absolutely have to play it?
Well, there's a couple of smaller games. Like if you're into things from Devolver Digital, I believe there's like Pepper Grinder, which imagine like Meat Boy, but where you can go through the walls type of thing with a drill. It's something along those lines. It's a pretty fun game to kind of like just tear stuff up and whatnot. So, and it works great. Like if you have like a handheld console, like one of the Steam Deck or a ROG Ally or a Legion Go or something like that. That's like the perfect game for one of those devices as well. But yeah, Black Myth Wukong, haven't seen advertising like I guess we should for it yet.
Yes.
I know the port for Xbox is going to be a little bit behind because reasons or whatever.
Right.
But I'm kind of still looking forward to that. I was actually planning on picking that up on PC just for the fact that I know that there's going to be some awesome mods for it. But I don't think I'm getting it day one. I'm starting to wonder how this thing is going to be as far as optimized on PC or even for PlayStation for that matter. If there's like 60 frames or if it's solid 60 or, you know, is it getting res for that? I'll kind of let others be the guinea pig on that one. But Star Wars, I don't want to spend 100 and something. And I know normally with Ubisoft stuff, I would. So I think I'm going to go do the Ubisoft Plus or whatever their subscription thing is to at least give it a try. Because there's a handful of games they're going to have between that and then Assassin's Creed in a couple of months. And then they've had some other ones earlier in this year that it's like, you know what? Maybe the subscription thing will be for the best. And then that way, by the time I'm probably halfway through, the thing will be like 50% off because Ubisoft games tend to go on sale.
So, just get the Ubisoft Plus, honestly.
Yeah. So I'm going to do the Plus, pick it up on the cheap later and, enjoy the Star Wars goodness from Massive because Massive is one of my favorite developers, not just in Ubisoft, but in general because I'm a Division stan to some extent.
Yeah.
But, I'm curious to see how they have the combat and stuff. Everything I've seen so far looks like it's definitely the signature of Massive. So I'm looking forward to it.
Right. Yeah. Damn. You know what? Speaking of Division, didn't they cancel Division 3 or they said, hey, we're not making the Division game we were?
I think it was the free-to-play one, right? That they canceled.
What was it called? It was like Heartland or something like
Heartland.
that.
Yeah. I think that's right.
Yeah, because I was really looking forward to that, and then it just wasn't a thing anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm hoping they learn from the First Descendant. Like the First Descendant did some things extremely right out the gate, like
the
persistent world where you have other players and then you can join their mission by just either shooting the enemy or just joining it. I hope Massive can figure out how to do that because I've wanted that ever since Division 1, where it's like instead of waiting in a queue, you see somebody starting a mission,
you just join up with them. Yeah,
exactly. That to me would take it to another level. Yeah.
Right.
And then if they can just figure out a couple of more things on like the gear sets, even though there aren't gear sets really in the First Descendant, but how they have like these inserts for the gear sets that basically are what level you up. Like I like that leveling system that First Descendant has, although I like the traditional leveling system that's in the Division, but they definitely need to do something about the persistent world, joining other people's instances, helping them out. They
Right.
kind of have it where you can call for help in Division 2, which I greatly appreciate them having that, but
Yeah.
just take it that much further. And I think at that point, especially considering Bungie tripping over their own feet, I think that'll give Division its strongest showing to this date and maybe convert some Destiny players. Who knows?
Yeah, I just, it's been too long since we've had a Division game, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
the one thing that it's like I agree with you, Fuzzy, that I want to get the Ubisoft Plus because I don't want to really buy the game at full price.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course they're talking about I guess a season pass with Star Wars Outlaws, and I'm like, oh boy, here we go. Definitely ridiculous. And some of the stuff they pointed out about Star Wars Outlaws, like some of the takedowns are really getting a lot of criticism.
Mm.
I'm sure you guys have seen it, like where she taps the stormtrooper in the helmet and he's knocked out, or where she goes to do a takedown on someone else and they're already dropping their blaster before she even touches him. It's kind of a little concerning about it, and I'm a big Star Wars fan, and I'm really looking forward to this. But some of the stuff I'm seeing from it, I'm kind of like, I don't know about it. I just don't know about it.
Well, then that's where the subscription definitely comes in clutch, because $17 versus the $100 and some odd dollars.
Yes,
definitely, and hopefully at that point they'll have a couple of patches. I'm thinking some of that, like the glitch stuff that you see on the takedowns and things. Hopefully they get that kind of tidied up, shortly after launch or day one type of thing.
Right.
But, it's. I definitely am doing subscription, and then when it's 50% off or 70% off or something like that, where it's one of those Christmas sale, I'll probably pick it up at that point.
Right. Well, and with a lot of Ubisoft games, it's like when they miss those, when they miss a certain sales number that Ubisoft wants them to sell, they're automatically going to go down in price.
Mm-hmm.
They're not like how the Call of Duty games retain a lot of their value, and they're like, we're just not dropping it below this price. Ubisoft has been known for saying, hey, you know what, we'll drop it to half price like 60 days after it launched, just so we can sell more units,
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, speaking of Ubisoft, what do you guys think about, and it's not coming up yet, it's coming up I think in October and November, what do you guys think about the Assassin's Creed Shadows, I think is what it's called? Is it something you guys are looking forward to, or is it something that you're like, you know what, I'm kind of tired of Assassin's Creed?
I think I'll play it. I like that Yasuke's in the game. I wish they made him kind of like more of like an assassin type. He's kind of more like a tank samurai type.
Right.
But I mean, that's cool. I mean, I don't want to judge the game before it came out. It's something they're doing that's new. And I mean, it looks really good. Yeah, I think I'll definitely play it on Ubisoft Plus when it comes out, just to see if I dig the gameplay. That's the big thing for me, is just the gameplay. I love the story. I love the setting. I just want to see what the gameplay feels like.
Right. Yeah, I completely agree. I got Mirage, and I was kind of like, I don't like how Mirage played in, like how the gameplay was. It just felt different compared to like Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Odyssey.
Yeah, the previous titles.
Yeah, so it's like at the time I had gotten Ubisoft Plus just to play that and Avatar and a few other games. And I'm glad, because originally I was like, I'm going to buy Mirage, but then I was kind of like, well, I don't think I'm going to, I'm like, I can't get into it, because it's like you can usually tell with the gameplay within the first hour whether it's going to click with you,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It just didn't click. It just didn't click.
That's how I feel too. Like, I just want to see how I feel after
Right.
the first hour.
Yeah, for me, I'm definitely Ubisoft Plus, primarily because trying to save money and then catch it when it's on discount. But I've had a kind of a weird relationship when it comes to the Assassin's Creed games. Like, really loved Origins. That was like, I tried Unity and Black Flag, and they were fine, but it wasn't exactly what I was expecting. So when they went that RPG route with Origins and Odyssey,
Right.
it really clicked for me. 100% all, and including all of the DLC for Origins, 100% the main story for Odyssey, and about 70% for the DLC. I actually love the combat in Valhalla more because of the dismemberment and just it
Right.
felt weighty in comparison to the others. But I didn't get through the story. Like I'm only about 60% through, and I think I have like 80 or 90 hours in. And part of it's my fault because I with those types of games, I like to wander around and try to fight
Yes.
bosses that are way over leveled compared to me.
Right.
And I did some of the raids. So the problem was I did a lot of the raids or did all of the raids, and then following the main storyline, now I got to go back and do the raids that I already did and kill the people, but like I already have the stuff from the raid, so it's almost like it's a waste of time at this point.
Yeah.
But that was the only one, like Valhalla. As much as I love the combat, I just didn't get through the story, and I probably broke it for myself. So I'm hoping we don't have that same type of setup for Shadows. If it's where I can roam around and it still checks off that I completed, like let's say this castle or this guard post or something, hopefully, I'll be able to like power through that without any problems. But if they have it where it's like, oh, you cleared this off earlier, but now you got to go back, and it's like, no,
I always hate
I don't want to do that. So hopefully they got that resolved, or maybe I should just stick to the main story stuff for the start. But like the concept, I mean, even though it's not going to be your what do you call it, like Ghost of Tsushima, which love Ghost of Tsushima, and I think a lot of people are looking for like a Ghost of Tsushima from Ubisoft kind of deal. But I like the setup, even though I agree with Vinny. I would rather him be more of like a stealth or assassin style as opposed to a tank, or at least have it where you could kind of choose which way you go, almost like you can in Ghost of Tsushima.
Ghost of Tsushima, yeah. That's exactly what I was thinking.
I think, because the guy they based it on is basically a tank. He was a tank in real life, so...
Yeah, he was a big dude.
Yeah. Well, that's why I think that's why they're including the smaller Japanese female. So she's the stealthy assassin. He's the tank that's going to be fighting 50 guys. That's kind of what it feels like,
And that's going to be an interesting mix. I'm looking forward to it. I know it had a ton of controversy, but now it seems like almost every game has controversy. Although some people seem like they were going over the top on that one in particular, but it's like I'm still going to give it a try. I'm still going to see if I can enjoy it, and everything I've seen so far looks like I'll enjoy it. But like I said, I'll probably do Ubisoft Plus, and then when it drops 50% or more, pick it up so I permanently have it in my library and stuff like that. But definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah, speaking of games that disappointed, it appears that, you guys have probably heard this news. Warner Brothers Discovery is actually thinking about selling off parts of its video game business. And I'm going to bring up an article here. I think it actually broke today. They're thinking about selling off parts of the video game business. Obviously, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, it didn't impress everybody, or it didn't impress as many people, I guess, as it needed to. Like the former, the Batman games, Batman Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, they did very well. And of course, by comparison, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, some people loved it, some people didn't. And it just seems like it wasn't necessarily the hit that Warner Brothers needed. And I know they launched Gotham Knights. It also wasn't as well received. And of course, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, we've heard people talking about the abysmal numbers of people playing online, like less than 500. And so this news that the parent company is thinking about selling off parts of its video game business, I mean, we don't know yet, I guess, if that's going to be Rocksteady.
Yeah, it's definitely, I guess I would say a Hail Mary kind of thing, because I think they did still have some layoffs shortly after the game was released. I do remember early on in development, I could have sworn Rocksteady was originally the ones that were working on Gotham Knights, and then the team that did Gotham Knights was working on Suicide Squad, and then they did a crisscross kind of thing. But all of that being the case, I would love for Xbox to possibly pick them up, as long as it comes with, lifetime license or something like that. For WB, which I have my doubts WB will do that, or maybe they give them like a 10-year license, but then again, is it worth 10 years of licensing only kind of thing?
Yeah. Well, and there's more than Rocksteady obviously underneath the WB umbrella. There's let me see. Of course, there's NetherRealm. NetherRealm is doing really well. Avalanche Studios, they came out with Hogwarts Legacy. It did really well. But unfortunately, Rocksteady didn't. Warner Brothers Discovery even said they took a $200 million loss on Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League because of how well they projected it to do initially. So, it kind of feels like they got overzealous, I guess, with their push to make this a games as a service. And when it fell short, it's like they could still turn this around and make it, successful, but it seems like with Warner Brothers Discovery, they're just trying to say, well, we need to cut our losses and move on to something else. That's kind of what it feels like with this,
Hopefully they find a nice new home. Obviously, it will not be Embracer,
right?
Because Embracer is
they're selling everything off, or closing everything.
Yeah. So at least we don't have to worry about Embracer getting their hands on them. But I don't know. As much as I would love Xbox to have them, it also makes sense in a weird way for PlayStation to take a look at it. I mean, if they're going to be the king of fighters with Evo and everything, and now let's say they own NetherRealm, I mean, that would be a big pickup for them. But I don't know if that's in their budget or not. But for Xbox, like if you don't get the the Mortal Kombat license, at least you got Killer Instinct that, even though it's a slightly different fighter as far as the speed and whatnot, I think NetherRealm could pull it off.
Didn't Microsoft just shut down like a Killer Instinct tournament or something like that? What was that?
I don't know if I can't remember if they shut a tournament down or not, but I know there was some, they're working with, I think it's Iron Galaxy again for like that recent update. And then there's kind of rumors that there might be a Killer Instinct 2 in the works somewhere kind of thing. But if they shut down a tournament type of deal or didn't participate at Evo or whatever, I don't know. It just feels like sometimes Xbox looks at numbers too much. Like, why is this game not doing well? Well, it's because you haven't updated the game in like forever, or it might be that because you don't have the support for the game or advertise that you have updates for the game, that it's not doing as well. So it always feels like I always talk about that DVR problem. They said hardly anybody's using the DVR. Well, they're not using it because it's garbage compared to the competitor. So if the DVR is garbage, why would you expect people to use it? They're not going to use something that's broken. So you should just fix it and then move on. If people don't use it afterwards, okay, yes, I could see waste of resources and whatnot. But to sit up there and say, well, nobody's using it while it's broken, well, you're kind of creating your own situation at that point. So I don't know. We'll see.
Uso, you're kind of quiet, buddy.
Oh, I wasn't saying anything. I don't know too much about the whole Killer Instinct scene going on. I know that did the remaster already come out? It did, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm not too familiar with Killer Instinct, so
I definitely agree with what Poison Maniac says. Microsoft needs to get better at marketing. I think for a lot of us, that's been one of our biggest complaints about Microsoft, is that their marketing has been lackluster.
Yeah, I don't have as much of a problem with the no console required. I just want them to show something where it's like a family, where one person's on a tablet or on a phone, another one's on the console that's hooked to the TV. Maybe somebody else is in another room on another TV with a streaming stick. Yeah. And then another family member's on a PC, all playing the same game at the same time. Like whether it's they're all playing, Minecraft together or whatnot. It's like console not required, but definitely a key part. Or you don't even mention it about console. Just say play it anywhere and everywhere. With devices you may already own, or that latest console that you just picked up, kind of thing. Something along those
Right.
lines, just so everybody playing on a different device, including an Xbox console, and show them having fun. And I think that kind of takes care of all the other stuff.
Right. It's like I think the marketing with some of their consoles and where you can play, it needs to be cohesive. The best thing though that Xbox is doing right now is Game Pass, obviously, and in addition to their own first party games, there's also tons of games always coming to Game Pass. I think today they actually announced that Descenders Next is a full sequel coming in 2025. You guys remember the Descenders game that was like you're riding the dirt bike, or you're riding the BMX bike. I'm sorry.
Bikes. Yeah.
Yeah, you're riding them down the hill and all that.
Mm-hmm.
They announced today, I guess, that Descenders Next is a sequel and it's coming day one to Game Pass, which is pretty cool. Did you guys ever play the first one?
Yeah.
I put in a few hours into it.
It's definitely hazardous with how you have to really watch how fast you're going down the hills.
Yeah.
And it's like one track I had to play it like 25 times because I'd get almost to the bottom, but I'm going too fast and he'd wipe out. So yeah.
No, but it's I think the big thing is the takeaway is that guy was able to make money despite being in Game Pass. As much as people would like to say Game Pass is, a detriment to gaming.
Yeah.
He was making money by people playing the game and they're like, oh, I really like this. Oh, it's going to leave Game Pass. Oh, well, let me pick it up for, $19.99 or I think the sale price at one point was between like $9.99 and $14.99 with the, the discount that you would get. So a lot of people picked it up, and it still sold on other consoles, but it sold well on Xbox as well. And that guy's probably looking at it like, you know what, I make a sequel and hopefully, not necessarily rinse and repeat, but hopefully he has the same success, with the sequel and stuff. So,
yeah.
My thing with developers who complain, who put their game on Game Pass and then complain about money or sales, it's just like, well, if sales was so important, why would you put your game on Game Pass? So it's just like they want the money from Game Pass, but they also want, crazy amount of sales, and it's just I don't know. I don't understand what goes through the minds of some developers. Common sense. If you want more sales, then you have to do it without Game Pass. Maybe they think it's like a great marketing tool. I don't know.
It feels
definitely helps. It like the marketing aspect. They definitely go all out and putting like some of those smaller games front and center.
Yeah.
But,
like that toy game. It wasn't even on Game Pass, and it sold over 150K.
Yeah.
Which is like 150 times more than they've ever sold before. So
right. Yeah, it's like Game Pass is a safety net for a lot of these smaller studios because everybody wants to act like it's still 2012 again as far as how much money you could make and all this stuff with gaming. Like everyone wants to basically think I can just put my game out there and if it's great, people will buy it. Well, unfortunately, in 2024, the market is super saturated. So a way around that is Game Pass.
Yeah.
Game Pass allows these smaller studios to put their game in a huge service that this $1 trillion company is going to advertise, and people see it there. And then when they're like, hey, like Fuzzy said, when the game's leaving, people are like, I want to pick it up, because I played it and I enjoyed it. But if it's not in Game Pass, you got to play it to really experience it, and that means fronting the money. And a lot of people aren't necessarily willing to do that, but Game Pass is kind of like giving demos, like how we used to have demos. You could test out a game before you played it. This is kind of like the same. It's like the evolution of that, and it's allowing a lot of smaller studios to actually get out there and be discovered. So as much as people say Game Pass is a bad thing, it's actually such a tremendous benefit for these small studios.
No, I agree.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look at things like what was it? Even though I don't know if Game Pass was active because I wound up buying it, and then I think it eventually came to Game Pass. Would be Cuphead. Like that dev had to like do a second mortgage on their home or something like that to kind of
Yeah.
cover the bills and expense until the game came
Yeah.
out and stuff. But
Well, and you know, the double-edged sword, obviously, of making games is, yeah, you have your freedom if you don't go in Game Pass. Every sale matters more. But then again, if it's a hard game, and Cuphead is niche, it's very niche because of its difficulty. You're not going to have a lot of people trying it out because they have to buy it first. But if it's in Game Pass and they're able to try it, even if it's harder, they might try it and they'll get good at it. And then they're like, hey, I like this game, I'm going to buy it. But before, they never would have done that,
True.
Yeah, I agree.
That's all the news I got for today. I did want to have more lined up, but it's just with the Bungie thing. It's like I could have had 10 different articles, but
Yeah. I mean, there hasn't been that much gaming news lately, so
yeah. Well, let me see. Gamescom comes in 2 weeks, so we'll probably have tons of news after that.
yeah,
that's
probably.
That's definitely going to be busy. But anyway, that is it for this podcast. Thank you so much to my guests. I do greatly appreciate it. I'll come to you first, Fuzzy. Why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you, social media, podcasts you're on, the deal.
Well, always appreciate being on a podcast with you, and always like having Vinny on here as well and stuff like that. Love hearing your guys' thoughts and takes on things and just talking gaming. Thanks to everybody in the chat. Greatly appreciate you guys coming to check us out. Don't forget, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Greatly appreciate it. And for those that want to hear my rambles and rants on anything gaming related, and on occasion some horror movies and shows and even horror games, just follow me on the app formerly known as Twitter at @fuzzy_Belvedere. I'm on a number of podcasts on Double Barrel Gaming's channel, on Fun Speculations channel, PTK Blam's channel, Pixelated Echoes, and then even my wife's channel, Ferocious Fee, for the horror podcasts at 6 p.m. Eastern on evening on Fridays and stuff. So check that out if you're into horror movies and stuff, and any of the other podcasts if you're into gaming. And greatly appreciate you having me on. Thanks again.
Thank you for being my guest. I do appreciate it. Uso, please tell our listeners where they can find you on social media and what podcast you're on.
Yeah, you can find me at Hawaiian Guy 808 on Twitter or X, or just search up Uso Vinny. And I'm on the Game Set Live podcast every Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific time. I almost called it the KY Bobby Show, but it's not the KY Bobby Show. But yeah, it was a real pleasure, guys. It's always a pleasure talking with Fuzzy. And thank you for having me on, Sarge. It was a good time.
Thanks, Uso. I appreciate it. I also want to thank everybody who dropped into the podcast and was blowing up the chat. Colt Classic Cage, Poison Maniac, Bold Man Gamer, Major, Brett Bingham, Infinite Umbra, Legendary Yobi, 108 Dragons TV, and Highlander 001. Thank you so much for dropping in. We greatly appreciate it. Obviously, you can find me on my podcast here every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Central. I am also on Twitter. That's SSG Sentinel. You can find me on Twitter. That's also TikTok, Twitch, that you can find me sometimes live streaming. Definitely check it out. I don't really have a streaming schedule, so when I do, I'll put it on Twitter so you guys can see that. Anyway, that's it for this podcast. Episode 1. Thank you so much for tuning in. We greatly appreciate it. And we will catch you guys later.
Later.